All right, Locker Room Philosophers fans, we are here with another episode. I think this is episode 13. Sounds right. Uh, so we're gonna do a little lessons from the mat to start it off, then some Q&A, and of course finishing it up with some philosophy with Mike D. So Mike, how are you today?
I'm doing super, Carlos. How are you?
I'm here. We're ready to go, so we're doing all right. So we're gonna start this off with lessons from the mat. Mike, what do you got for us today?
All right, so my lesson is not from the mat per se, but I've been off the mats for a week here. So my lesson is more about I've been practicing patience. So patience with allowing my body to do what it needs to do, so I can get back on the mats, and then being able to look at other areas of my life that I could also exercise some more patience. So that's kind of been the theme for me the last 10 days. It's something like that.
Gotcha. So for my lessons from the mat, I've got a little anecdote to go along with it. My buddy Dan, he told me this story the other day about how he he's a cop and he was working an event. Um, he was working an event with a partner, and there was a bunch of people there, and there's a lot of people watching to be done. And the partner, he said, "Man, there's a lot of large breasted women out here." And my buddy, he was like, "Well, you see what you're looking for." And the guy said, "Yeah, I guess you're right. I haven't seen any large cock bulges while I've been out here." And so the theme there is you see what you're looking for. So for my lessons from the mat, it's, recently I was made aware of the fact that I'm 6'2" and have long legs, and then I should probably start triangling people more, because my body type is conducive to that. And before it was just like, I'm not very flexible, and like if I get the opportunity, I do it, but like I'm not really looking for it. But then, we've had those classes with Aaron talking about, arm in, arm out scenarios and getting the triangles from basically everywhere, and how just positionally it's a very dominant position. And because of that, lately I've just been looking for them more and I've been finding them. So there's, obviously the normal triangle from bottom.
Noted.
Yeah. Mounted triangles, from the back. I've been trying to get to triangles more, and from arm bars, because I, for some reason, suck at arm bars. I've been transitioning to triangles from there, and, from the back, transitioning to triangles, and then, arm bars from there. So it's just, you get what you're looking for. Like I've rolled pretty much the same the whole, like, the how long has it been? Like 3 years that I've been training. But when I'm looking for, all right, let me see if I can just get to an arm. When you look at it as, all right, I'm going to look for an arm in, arm out scenario. When you just look at it like that, like not even, I'm going to try and get a triangle. Like, all right, let me just get one of their arms between both my legs and their other arm outside of it. Okay, now I'm seeing it. Now I'm seeing them all over the place, and it's just the main. I'm not saying I'm like super good at them yet, but seeing them in transition, that's been pretty interesting, because it's like, all right, you know, I'm in mount and then they sweep me, but all right, I can catch them in the triangle in transition. Like just looking for, all right, they're having to post their arm to do this. Let me get to a let me get to a triangle from there. Or even like I've attempted this, haven't been super successful with it unless the person's like really bad, but that kind of jumping over their guard and into the triangle like Josh does sometimes, just stuff like that where it's like, all right, their arms posted, let me at least go for it and see what happens. So just looking for those opportunities. And so my lesson from that for this week is you get what you're looking for. So in life, if you are just looking for, oh man, like what is horrible about this organization I look for or that I work for? Okay, well then you're probably going to just see all the negatives of where you work. Oh, if you switch that, let me look for the positives. Okay, I like the people I work with, blah blah blah. You start to see more of the positive. So thinking back on this, it's something I've actually struggled with pretty much my entire life. I tend to see things in a negative light, and that's because I'm seeing what I'm looking for. I'm seeing what I'm looking for. So that would be my lesson from the mat: is see what you're looking for, and that relates to any and every aspect of life.
Nice, beautiful. I love that lesson. See what you're looking for.
Uh,
Why do you think people tend to look at things from a negative perspective? Maybe naturally, like it's kind of more of a default way of doing it, of looking at things. Why do you think that's defaulted in a negative way? Do you think?
um, I would say that the negativity can tend to lead to emotional appeals. Uh, you know, that can start hypothetically start more conversations like misery loves company. And if you're just one of those people who's always positive and have such a rosy outlook on life, maybe people tend to not take you super seriously. And yeah, I would just say misery loves company. That's why it's a cliche phrase. What's your take on that?
Uh, I think so. Like looking at the negative thing. I think honestly, I think it's a little bit of a mind virus and a little bit of a way for people to have like whether it's an excuse or a reason not to do something. So, and I don't think that looking at and that doesn't mean that so like for me, like I try to exercise this kind of thing. It's not to say, okay, um, you're not aware of the negatives, right? You're not aware of these things. So it's like you have the awareness around them, but just choosing to kind of attach to the positive side of things. And then even look for whatever there can be. And it doesn't mean that obviously there's some tragedies that happen and it's hard to find a positive, but there is a positive that will come out, that comes from it as well. So it's just like, I just think that, yeah, it's a little bit of a mind virus and a little bit of a way because it's easy. Um, I think there's a lot of issues with that kind of having like not kind of reaching your full potential. So you're always trying to the negative aspect of things kind of gives you these outs potentially, these reasons to not do things or and then you feel like shit in my opinion too because it
Yeah,
kind of
going
creates this whole like negative disposition of life in general. At least it can. I mean, you know.
yeah. I mean, if you just always look at things as, oh, I have no control over it, and the universe is stacked against me, whatever victim mentality thing you got going on, that's in psychology, that's called the external locus of control. And that's been shown to, if somebody lives their life with an outlook of there's an external locus of control versus an internal locus of control, which is where you have a greater control over things than you don't, then that external locus of control has been tied to depression and all this other stuff. So I would say that, yeah, people look at it, by it I mean just negativity in general. People look at negativity as potentially like an out for a shortage of success or why they're failing at things or whatever. But in reality, that's not going to lead you to any lasting happiness, because you're basically saying, "Oh, I I'm not autonomous. Like I don't have any control over what happens to me. I'm just a puppet in a play or whatever. I
Mhm.
have no control. There's the universe is stacked against me." So if you're just playing the perpetual victim, then you're just guaranteed to not be happy. So that would be my take on that.
Yeah, there's in real estate there's this thing where like if you're getting ready to list a house, any property, but like a house, let's say, um, you there, going through the house, there's certain things that if you identify them, It could be something small, it doesn't have to be big, but something that kind of is uh, something that's like off, right? Whether it's just a little repair, like something minor, but it stands out. Um, Especially the little stuff, right? If there's a few of these things, it could be a little hole in the drywall that just needs a little bit of patching. It could be, um, even on like some of these investor-owned properties, when they sell them, you'll see like, okay, they're just everything is usually typically as is, and there'll be some things like they'll like add a coat of paint everywhere, like they'll paint the walls all one color, and you go in and you're showing them, but then it's like none of the trim, none of the doors, those aren't painted. So it's like fresh painted walls, but then all the trim on the baseboard trim, all the doors, it's all dirty. It's all like there could even be dust and grime on there. Like they haven't like, okay, take the extra step, clean them, throw a coat of paint on those too, so everything's kind of. But like my point is like when we go through these, when you get ready to list a house, there's these things that we'll go through a checklist and say, okay, is there anything that we can do to make sure that when somebody walks into the house, they're not going to immediately see something that's kind of that's a negative to them, whether it's small, like, oh, I got to like fix this hole in the drywall, right? Yeah, it could be super small. That could be it. The rest of the house could be amazing. But like trying to limit these things, especially if they're easily correctable, try to limit them because it automatically switches a person into like a negative kind of disposition on the house. So then they'll start to like, even if they still want to offer, they'll start to like, okay, what other problems am I going to find in this house, instead of like looking at all the, the beautiful aspects of it too. So kind of like, so I've noticed, and I'm like, why is it that it's easy for that? Like, even like I'm saying, like even one little thing I've noticed just from experience, like people kind of automatically go to like this negative road on it. But you're just like, dude, there's so much more positive about the house. You just kind of have to guide them back to the positive. But it's just
Yeah.
interesting to see like how that can kind of suck you down, and then you're like, oh, well, what else is going to be wrong with it? Like maybe
Yeah.
nothing, maybe it's just that. But let's kind of hop back on like the bigger picture here.
Yeah. That makes
So
perfect
yeah, it's
sense to me.
interesting.
Awesome. So, first question of the Q&A is, how do you envision the role of technology in shaping our future? That's a deep one.
It's very deep. Yeah, I don't know. That's like that can go in so many different ways. I think obviously, or to me, I'm going to say technology is like you hear, it's a blessing and a curse too, right? Like it's dangerous. Obviously, there's a lot of danger, a lot of things to worry about with technology. But that's, I think, with anything in life, anything created, that there's a potential for good and bad. Um, but I mean, technology, the way we're connected, I think the virtual reality, like that kind of element of it, where we're gonna have wearables, especially once it starts to get to a point where it's not as like these big goggles, and it's kind of more, sleek and easy. So I think like that whole metaverse virtual reality thing is gonna become more prevalent. I think AI is gonna be hugely involved in everything. And then I think, I know, I mean, these things are going to happen, but then I also believe that I don't know how long, but that just the transhumanism type of thing is going to start to take off. And then I don't know, like I said, like we could have a huge discussion on this, but it's just like from there where it goes, like where does the human species, like how does it evolve into some kind of like basically transhumanism is the next thing that keeps us, alive on the planet and helps us, because like we're very unhealthy, and unless we do our part as human beings to like clean that up, right? And clean up the environment, healthy animals, healthy environment, healthy food. But I don't see that, I don't
No.
see that happening, right? I think there's just so much money and just corruption in a lot of that stuff. So I think like the push for like the whole transhumanism is going to be huge, because they're going to sell a lot, especially in the beginning. It's going to be, okay, this is going to help cure these things or heal people from these things, which, on one hand, you're like, okay, this is amazing, um, stuff that they say it can do with the spine and brainstem, but then it's just I don't know, man. It's a slippery slope, but
It's the slipperiest of slopes.
it's
I saw this thing, I think Joe Rogan posted it, but it was about like the chat GPT, but for your brain, basically. Like it'll transcribe thoughts and all this stuff. And
is
it's
that
like,
the Neuralink like that Musk is doing, or is this
it was
a
something
totally different
different.
thing?
It
Okay.
was like chat GPT, but you don't need to like give it prompts. It just does stuff based off your thought, I guess is,
Ah,
I, I don't know exactly how it works. I didn't do nearly enough research on it, but it's like, why are we plugging machines into our brain? Like, it's just there needs to be some kind of control on that. And then I'm not even saying a government control, but because I don't think the government should be controlling very many things. But it's just like this, like you said, a slippery slope. Like I see people making these robots that can fight and run and do all this stuff. Like, how many movies have there been about robots taking over? And you know what stops them from turning on us? If they're an autonomous being who can think and evolve on their own, I mean, we're not going to be able to control that. What are we? Why are we making robots that can take us over? It doesn't make any sense to me. So
yeah. They always say, don't worry about it. They're not sentient. They're not able to. But that's how it. That's how it.
yeah,
That's like the last words of every bad ending. Like don't. This is something that I don't know. The from my limited understanding in like robotics and all that's like I don't know shit about that stuff. But at the same time, it's just I feel it like deep within the human soul that I don't know, man. This is not the greatest, especially the way you can see it going, right? Like if it's one thing to be able to help people cure some issues and but it's just but that's not what they want to put stuff inject chips in you to where they could like right you can get like all your lab like not your labs but your prescriptions your doctors all your stuff right you just your whole like profile of your medical personal information everything can be like pulled up and scanned and analyzed and it's just like that kind of stuff it goes too far. I'm like why you don't need that right it's just
yeah.
I don't see any benefit to that but
No, and
it's,
everything comes down to. I just realized this when you were saying that. Everything boils down to people trying to make everything as convenient as possible. And is convenience really that good for us? I would say no.
yeah no
If everything's too convenient, then it becomes like, what was that movie, like Wall-E or whatever, where
yeah
each
yep
human was in the pod and,
yep
you know,
Ready
yeah,
Player One too. That's a newer version of Wally.
yeah, like what convenience isn't good. It can be good in moderation, but if everything's too convenient, then that only leads to problems because then first off, you don't know how to do anything. You lose any kind of skills, and people need hardship. People need to endure things to grow. If you're not having to learn, then you're just being stagnant and you're not growing. So again, this
It's the whole comfort
smoothly,
crisis.
yeah, and
Yeah,
this kind of backs up into why we do lessons from the mat because we learn things through struggle, which is all that jujitsu is at this point for both of us. We're just constantly struggling all the time, and I think that's why so many people that do jujitsu love it is because it's something where you're going to be struggling for a very long time, and you're going to need to learn you're learning every day, and if we're just making everything too convenient, I don't see the positives in that.
yeah. No, then that's the rise of fast food. The rise of even just factory farmed foods that are just convenient because you can pull them up. They're washed and ready to go. You can just open the package and eat them, but you don't even know the extent of how they were raised and grown and all that stuff, right? The convenience of pharmacology of I mean, and there's so much positive to there's so much positive to like to having medications for sure, right? And having like, that whole pharmacology side of things, like there's a like okay, for instance, you get a staph infection. If it gets bad,
Hypothetically.
hypothetically, and if it gets bad to the point where it's like, needs some extra care because it can get really bad, or I mean, staph infections, that's not a great thing to just have lingering around. So if it's not healing, antibiotics are amazing, right? It's an amazing thing. But then also throwing antibiotics at everything for every issue that you get, taking antibiotics too much, and then not having the proper education on what somebody should do, while they're on antibiotics, and then maybe after you finish antibiotics, like what do you need to put back in your gut to help it kind of get back to normal. Um, so like these things, they're convenient. Like, medications are convenient, but people don't take the time to say, okay, like what can I do personally in my life to fix my problems, right, or to help my situation. And so the comfort crisis is a real issue. That's why I like rucking. That's the Michael Easter's book, The Comfort Crisis. He talks a lot about rucking and a lot about the comfort. It's a great book for anybody that wants to read up on it. But it's a big thing. It's a big problem for sure.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I see the positives in the short term, but I don't see the positives in the long term. Like look at kids. Neither of us have kids, but look at how screwed up kids got and how screwed up society got from the last couple of years where everything was locked down, people were working from home, you couldn't go anywhere. That's that's what all this stuff's going to lead to. It's not going to lead to more socialization. Like, yeah, the 15-minute cities or whatever will lead to people being more packed in, but that's not going to lead to more socialization. That's not going to lead to
Especially
people.
human to human contact.
Yeah,
Like like see your face, but like your real face, not your avatar. You
yeah.
know, uh, Being in the same room as somebody, that stuff's important. I
And
think the ability to connect to somebody who's far away is amazing, but you can't like. I don't think that should replace it because even like video games, they don't. Everybody just plays online, so nobody really. We used to go to each other's houses and I know like okay, you don't have to do that as much because of technology, but then there's still something to it, like getting together with your friends and playing some games together in the same room.
especially when you're younger.
Yeah,
And I obviously see the irony of us recording this virtually right now
but we
while
do
we're
we do in person though too.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
I
and
mean mostly.
yeah, and we see each other all the time anyways. But I just wanted to point out that I do see the irony there because this
This is
is
a positive.
obviously
We're using
convenient.
it in a positive way. Our
Yeah,
intention is good.
yeah, yeah. That's all that matters. Um, so I guess my answer for how you envision the role of technology in shaping our future is it's going to be slippery, like you said. Like we just need to rein it in. Like we are. I'm very pro capitalism, and it's just it seems like from my point of view that a lot of the people that are pushing this stuff don't they try to act like it's for an altruistic reason,
Right.
but I'm not seeing the positives in the long term. If we need to call out
There
the
needs to be
guy,
oversight.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like, but then there's the problem of trust with like who's in charge or responsible for that oversight is also because like it's human beings, man. Like when you think about just government in general or just the ruling society in general, it's kind of you can see how okay, like same thing. I'm for capitalism for sure, but then there's that part of capitalism that's not. It's like I don't even know what the term is, but it's just like that's where the big dollars are, right? Those ultra wealthy conglomerate businesses, corporations that take over a lot of these sectors and just industries, right? So then like they're the ones who really have a lot of the influence on how things happen, right? What gets funded, um, just where kind of things go, and that's the thing where like the average person, that's where it makes me honestly like those are the things that I think it's like okay, well you know, when you don't have as much trust in the politicians either because of just how that's all set up. You just start to say like, okay, well, the way it's headed, it doesn't give you like a super great feeling in within yourself. Like this is like basically you're going to go through some bumps in the road. So I'm like, okay, as human beings, if we're going down this path no matter what, like there's no stopping it. So my whole thing is it's like it's just because the nature of our lifespan is like I mean, not even a blimp on the radar. Just think like 500 years from now, right? What like how would that thing look, that path from today to like 4 to 500 years from now? Like how did the human like how does the human species look, and then how was like did we go through some kind of terrible evil phase of this and have to autocorrect recorrect? It's just weird to see because we always think of like, okay, our life right now, and then even our grandparents and great grandparents, but no, but after, think about like your great grandparents, like before that nobody really like considers that life, as much outside of like historical events.
Yeah.
So it's just like trying to see, okay, where's like in our lifetime, it might be to us, we might be like, oh yeah, this is crazy and messed up, but then it might get really bad, or maybe it just ends up being good. I don't know.
Here we are looking at the negatives.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just weighing them. You just always, well, especially when it's gonna be, when it's something that, this is why, like, okay, looking at the negatives, having awareness around them is huge because, like, I'm not gonna just buy into something. Whether it's taking a vaccine or whether it's getting a chip in my arm or whether it's, I mean, like, at some point you have to be able to look at the negatives and be
Yeah.
aware of them, and
Yeah. Ignorance is bliss, as they
yeah,
say. So you can't just, ignorance is bliss. So you can't just be ignoring the negatives.
yeah, especially if it's like a world that you want me to participate in, and I have to like, it's going to affect me. Then I have to like, okay, well, what's the thing? Let's look at this. So I mean, obviously with the technology thing, it's evolving so fast, but you just got to try to. I think for me, honestly, like the way I look at it too is during this whole thing. So you know, if it, no matter how long my life is from this point on, my thing is always use technology. I think it is amazing. Use it right. Don't reject it as it gets better and better because it's going to be part of things. But then also stay grounded in kind of reality of like just the natural world. And as
Yeah.
long as you do that, it kind of keeps for me. It kind of keeps like a clear perspective of like, okay, like a reminder to like come back home in terms of disconnecting too, and not just like relying on technology to do everything and be everything for you.
Yeah, for sure. Um, Next question. If you could choose one superpower, what would it be and how would you use it?
So I originally was going to say invincibility. I think a lot of people would probably pick that one. Um, and I
Are you
might be.
talking invincibility
That's what I
like
was going to
from
pick.
threats or just living forever?
No, like we could just turn invisible.
Oh, I thought you said invincibility.
Invisibility.
Okay.
I might have said invincibility. Yeah, I might have said that. But that's what I was going to pick originally, but I'm not. I want to
All right.
do. I want to. I don't even know what it would be called, but like the guy from Fantastic Four, the stretch guy, and I would use it in jujitsu. Be fun.
I
Like I would never get tapped.
feel like chokes would still work.
I don't know, man. You can stretch the neck and it like, I mean, I don't know. At some point, it's gonna be like this big in that little area of your between the bicep and I think I might be able to survive. Or while I'm being choked, my legs are gonna come over and triangle. I mean, there's a lot of things that what I'm saying, because you're flexible. You can go in any way, which way you want.
Would you still have your mobility just be stretchy?
I mean, it goes. I mean, I gotta have mobility is not a factor when you're the stretch guy. See, Fantastic Four, he like Didn't he like go under the door, like stretch under the door, or put his arm under and it like stretched
Yeah, but
all the way?
I'm saying, for example, for you, could your legs just extend to be like 20 feet long, but they would still just be like stuck straight, or would they be able to like spread out past the point that your
No,
hips
flexible. Go
currently
over my
can?
head. Yeah, everything.
Okay, so not
Yeah,
just
flexible as
okay,
shit. Yeah.
okay.
Like
So
I
we're
think
not.
that's how that guy. I think that his powers, whatever that guy's superpower is. What's his name from Fantastic Four? Let me see something. Let me
I
see.
have
Let me
no
see if
idea.
Jamie
I
can
know what you.
check.
I know who you're talking about, but I don't know what his name is.
We're gonna say. All right. Let me see the stretchy guy. First of all, I don't even know his name. Mr. Fantastic. There you go. Uh, I don't know what it is, but is he stretchy?
Well,
Elasticity.
it's
Elasticity. The power of elasticity.
okay. So yeah, you,
I like that.
that would work.
That would be my. That would be my. Because the invisibility one was fantastic, but then it starts to get like honestly like I was like I don't know. Like I got to think of some positives of how I would use it. I feel like there's a lot of gray area with that one too. So this one will keep me honest in my answer.
Okay.
I wouldn't be like a spy, you know. I think I'd spy a
Yeah.
lot if I was invisible.
uh, I think my answer, if time travel's a superpower, then I would definitely do time travel. But I don't know if that one necessarily counts as a superpower. If it doesn't, then it would be teleporting for sure. I would just travel wherever and then be back home for dinner, you know. That would be pretty sweet. So, how I
Like
would use
quantum
it,
leap.
yeah, exactly. So, how I would use the teleporting thing would, I mean, I would never have to commute anywhere. I would just show up to where I need to show up. Um, and then, yeah, just be able to travel wherever. But then I could leave that like it, that would just be so convenient. But so that would be my answer.
That'd be that you're always thinking like the best gas mileages in life. It's like you know,
Well, yeah, you
like
drive a freaking Hummer that gets
you're
like
like I would get to, I'd say now I'd have
three. Yeah, then I could.
unlimited gas mileage.
Yeah, exactly. Then I could get my V8 4Runner and not have any issues.
That'd be pretty sweet though. Like you can just open a portal or whatever and just tell it, just walk in it and you're somewhere else.
Yeah,
You think that's
yeah.
real right now? You think there's
I
some
don't.
like black hole technology or some kind of wormhole technology that they're using to do that?
I I don't think so.
No,
That'd be pretty cool, but I don't think we've gotten there yet.
that show Beyond Belief is amazing. So sometimes it's like you're just like, I don't wonder, man.
Oh, here's
I
another
wonder.
question that I just came up with. What's your favorite conspiracy theory?
Oh,
Mine is that birds aren't real.
that's been a okay. Well, actually, tell me about this one because that's you're like the probably third, fourth person in the last couple of days that have said that. So I didn't really hear this one now, and now I'm like, now it's gonna be annoying because I'm gonna have to go down this. It's fun, it's super fun, but then it's just like, yeah,
So the birds aren't real thing kind of, from my understanding, came about because when you're in a city, particularly in the hood, birds are just always on power lines. So people say that they're recharging their batteries in the power lines. So like they're not actually real. They're just always charging on power lines, that they're like spy devices.
hmm.
So that one's my favorite. I think it's interesting because it is true. Like you see them on power lines all the time. But
Because there's no damn trees in those cities.
yeah,
I mean, where
exactly.
they gotta. It's like a branch to them. I don't know. That's it. That's a legit one because I've like heard this now. So I don't know
Yeah.
if it's kind of resurfaced as like a hot one because like flat Earth resurfaced for a minute, like popped up again. I was like, you know, so some of these I feel like they kind of they pop, you know, come to the surface a little bit, and people. I don't know if like TikTok maybe brought some awareness around it or something, but everybody's been that's it. Now I'm gonna have to look into that one.
I don't know, but Alex Jones is back on Twitter, so we're going to be hearing some good ones
Well,
coming
it's
up.
interesting because when you look at his track record too, I mean, he was like right on a lot of stuff though. So
Yeah, no,
doesn't mean that people are 100% like and everything they say is correct or whatnot. But like, it's just interesting to see how much heat he got. I was like, dude, he was right about it. A lot of
yeah. When you
stuff.
look back at a lot of these conspiracy theories, they actually
It's
do
crazy.
turn
Yeah,
out to be true. But I think we're pretty safe on the birds not being real one.
yeah. I
There
mean,
might be some fake birds out there, but
mixed in
they're
could be
yeah.
for sure, and that makes more sense to me because I want to get a falcon though. I want to be like I want to do falconry. It'd be kind of cool.
I
I
could
think that there's a
100% see that.
falconry. Yeah, they're sweet, man. I've been like looking at a lot of these how it does the algorithm. So a lot of these accounts that have falconry stuff going on, and I'm like, I don't know, it's pretty sweet. Just,
All right,
there's a place
before
to
we
try.
get too weird,
So,
let's
um,
yeah, what's your favorite?
my favorite conspiracy would be it's got to be around the whole Antarctica thing, like the
Talk
whole.
talk to me.
There's a lot to it, but the mainly just a lot of the alien talk or just kind of some of the mythology that kind of goes back to Antarctica and just what's in Antarctica. That's because it's just a weird thing. Like nobody can ever go, even privately. It's just such this hush hush thing.
So
Extreme
what's the
climates.
conspiracy theory?
There's several actually. So that's why I mean Antarctica in general is something that is just fascinating because there's multiple conspiracies, but the main one being probably like the one that you hear most is about aliens and alien like kind of bases being there inside. There's because there's the pyramids that are frozen. So at one point before Antarctica was Antarctica, like
Are they
there's
hold on, are people saying that aliens are currently living there or that aliens were living there in the past?
there's both actually. A lot more
Oh,
people. A lot of the thing right now is that they're still living there. You know, and that's why. Then there's also the bases that the U.S. has, right, in other countries as well.
yeah. I mean, are
So,
they so
I mean,
wait, wait,
the conspiracy that makes the most sense is at the very least is that basically that there's some alien, UFO technology that they're working on that was retrieved in like Antarctica is the spot where they do all their stuff or like a lot of
oh,
it like that like
okay,
that
I could see that.
That's the one. So that's the one that floats that makes the most kind of the most sense, and then it goes to the one, and that's why it's the most interesting one because then it gets to the point of where like okay, well, aliens like that's kind of where the Greys or whatever I think it's the Greys is what they say, but like that's where they're from. That and they're inside of these mountains and caves. That's kind of where they're
Well,
chilling
at
at.
that point,
But
if they're from Earth, would they be aliens or just be some other creature
well,
that's from
actually,
Earth?
it's like well, yeah. Then there's well, they're not. Well, there's the thing that they're not from Earth, and then there's the other take that we're the aliens in a way,
Yeah,
and like we're being the ones that are being experimented on. We're like ants, and then
I could.
they come check in, do what they gotta do, see how all the kids are doing. I mean, so there's
I
a
mean,
lot with the
if I was an
extraterrestrial stuff.
if I was an alien coming to Earth, I would definitely be picking somewhere else that's not Antarctica. Like, there's so many better
But that might not
places,
even affect
unless.
them. That like I don't think like I don't know if they would be even if that would even be an issue to them, like the cold or whatever. And they might want to be more in a secluded area too.
Yeah,
I mean, I
I
don't
guess I can
know,
see that.
because like nobody's going there, nobody's flying over there, nobody could. You can't even take like I said, you can't. I don't think you can. I mean, yeah, Antarctica. I don't think you can even charter like a private thing there. Like,
I mean, my buddy
which
just the best man at my wedding just went down to Antarctica, but that was part of it. It's not like he went through the whole thing. Like, maybe there's some parts that you can't get to or whatever. But
Well, there's a ton of. It's huge. I
yeah,
mean, there's a
well, yeah, I
ton.
know.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd
I
be
don't know.
it'd be interesting. I mean, yeah, it's just that, and there's so much with the alien extraterrestrial stuff, but like Antarctica's always, and if you start going down that path, you'll see what I mean. Like, there's just a lot of different things around Antarctica. Like just like what people's theories on it. But
Yeah,
it's just interesting. So like Antarctica, just in general, like a lot of the conspiracy around there would just be interesting to kind of figure out and see what's true, what's not. But
yeah, that makes sense. All right, before we expose some government secrets that we don't know about, let's get to some philosophy with Mike D.
let's get to some philosophy. I gotta. So this one kind of hits home with what you talked about in the beginning. So this is going to be a quote. So the quote is based. The title is "Know Thyself Before It's Too Late," and the quote is from Seneca. It says, "Death lies heavy upon one who, known exceedingly well by all, dies unknown to himself."
Hmm.
So, and what they say about it in this book is some of the most powerful and important people in the world seem to have almost no self awareness. Although total strangers know endless amounts of trivia about them, about the celebrities, about the famous people, because they are too busy or because it hurts too much, appear to know very little about themselves. We can be guilty of the same sin. We ignore Socrates' dictum to know thyself, often realizing we have done so at our peril. Years later, when we wake up one day and realize how rarely we ask ourselves questions like, who am I? What's important to me? What do I like? What do I need? Now, right now, you have the time to explore yourself, to understand your own mind, your own body. So don't wait. Know yourself before it's impossibly late. That's that's the Stoic philosophy from
That's good
Seneca.
stuff.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Yeah, I I mean, I've never been famous, but I can definitely see how, especially if you're like famous from a young age, like that the Home Alone guy and those kind of people, or like Justin Bieber or whatever. I heard something the other day that a lot of those people socially and like mentally, they stay at the age they were when they got famous.
Hmm.
And so, if you got famous at the age of 13 or whatever, then I mean, you can see that in a lot of those people. Like they're just wrecks the rest of their life because you just gave a 13-year-old millions and millions of dollars, crazy influence over people. And yeah, learn they're not going to learn about themselves. They're not going to have to go through the normal socialization and figuring themselves out like a normal kid would because they're in the spotlight. So yeah, I can definitely see that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like they're at a young age. They're basically, especially when you're the most impressionable. Kids like people that are essentially born famous like that, or in that trajectory right away. I mean, at your youngest ages, when you're that impressionable, that's where people are basically creating your own, like your identity for you. Like this is how you
Yeah,
should be. This is your reality, and then like you don't really know. Like like you said, you don't really get to figure these things out because you don't know. You're not in these quote unquote normal environments or situations, especially early on. So then it's like, well, I can't, like, it's probably got to be hard to hang out or relate to people like that. So then you kind of stay in this false, like it's like a different reality. It's still a reality to them, but it's
yeah,
like it's just different. It's not like your true self, like you
yeah,
finding out who you are, who you're, at the core.
yeah, yeah. You'd have to be an incredibly grounded person with like actual good influences on your life to get through that and be successful. Like just off the top of my head, I mean, I don't know much about celebrities or tabloids or anything, but of all the people that were famous from like a young age, the only one I can think of off the top of my head that isn't just like a total train wreck is Mario Lopez.
Mm.
Wasn't he famous like as a kid? Wasn't he in like some show when you were young?
I think well even before, but Saved by the Bell was the main
Yeah,
show when
that's
I
the
was
one.
young. Yeah, but I think he did stuff even before that too. But he was super famous. All those everybody on that show was famous for sure.
But
So I
yeah,
don't know
so
how young he was there, but yeah.
it'd be interesting to see like maybe he had good parents or something like that where they were able to keep him grounded because that would be weird as a parent. Like, your 12-year-old makes 100 times more money than you. Like, what can you even tell them to do? Like, they could just go buy a house on their own. And I mean, they
But
can't
they
because they're too
yeah,
young
and
technically. But
I think that's it though. I think because the parent still has the the control and responsibility and legally and all that stuff too. So they're like the whatever the term would be for that kid's like life, and then and then the parent gets kind of corrupted along the way possibly too.
oh, 100%.
Because if the it's one thing if your parents famous and then the kid's born famous at a young age. I'm sure that's different. I don't know. And then, or if the parent's not famous, the kid's young and then becomes famous. You know, there's got to be something there in the parent and just in the parents' perspective and awareness of everything too, because you could
Yeah.
have like a famous parent that has a kid, their kid's talented, becomes famous, but that parent was able to, like, let's say, like, I don't know the guy, but I could see if Tom Hardy had kids, I think his kids would have a good kind of like his awareness, his approach to life seems like it's a little more grounded and
Hmm.
in like a normal reality than kind of having them being raised in this kind of like just being detached to some of these like so we talked about before, like the stuff that is convenient, the stuff that is comfortable, and
Yeah.
easy, to where he'd probably put them through some stuff, right? So I think that
Versus
yeah,
the
versus
Kardashians who are just all a train wreck from what I
yeah,
understand.
and maybe their parent, maybe they were used a little bit, like pushed more into that light so they can make more money, become more famous, and then that's kind of where, okay, well, there's no, like, I see where that can get blurry, those
Yeah.
boundaries, and just like, and then how does the kid learn?
Yeah.
You know, the parents kind of helping along, helping with that whole kind of throwing them into this fake, false reality kind of thing.
Yeah. It's interesting. But all right.
Yep.
Locker Room Philosophers fans, just let us know what you think about that quote and any other questions you want us to answer in the future, and we'll get on that. So, Mike, I got to wrap this one up, but appreciate you hopping on here. And we've got an exciting episode to record that'll come out Friday. So, 3 days after this one, we'll be talking with Mario Santos. He is a 10-year police veteran who is now a real estate agent, and he has a clothing company. But he's got a very interesting story as to why he got out of policing and how his skills from policing translated into entrepreneurship. So you guys will learn a lot there, and we're going to have a good conversation with him tomorrow. So
Nice.
thanks, Mike,
Yes,
for
sir.
hopping on here again, and I'll see you tomorrow.
All right. See you tomorrow, guys.